Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video we're looking at MSSQL or Microsoft SQL Server, which is basically a database system made by Microsoft. Companies use it to store and manage data, things like user accounts, app data, logs, customer information, all that behind the scenes stuff that keeps applications running. You will literally find it everywhere, especially in internal company networks and older enterprise setups. And because it often holds really sensitive data, when MSSQL is misconfigured, the impact can be way bigger than people actually realise. So we know Microsoft SQL should be running on port 1433. So we run an nmap scan for that, which I've already got there. So yeah, we can see there. So there's a service. It's running Microsoft SQL Server 2019. So that as well, you could check for any known vulnerabilities on the version itself. Okay, so we've confirmed it's definitely running. So a tool we can use to connect is an impacket script, mssqlclient, username, colon, the password, then the target IP address, and now we're connected to the database. So from here, look at the help commands. So straight away I'll be thinking, can we get some sort of command execution? So if you see here, enable XP command shell, let's see if we can do that. We just need to run the reconfigure command. And now we should be able to run this XP command shell. So basically it's running CMD on the target, but from within the database. So this is the VM that's got the SQL server running on it. And what we're going to be doing in the database is effectively the same as just doing that inside this terminal, but we'll be doing it from inside the database. How we do it, see if we can see what's at the C directory. So we've got the execute command, XP command shell, which is this, and in single quotes, R command, which is dir C, which is basically list the contents of the C directory. Let's just show you what that looks like on the other one. It's basically the same as going. Same as that. So we have got command execution. So now we could start running all sorts of commands. So if we press up to bring up the last command, start doing things like who am I to see who we're currently running as. NT authority system, that's a high privileged account. So the likeliness is we'll be able to put a shell on the target, run it, and get a reverse shell for easier interaction. Let's do who am I priv. See all of our privileges. But because we're the NT authority system, which is like a super privileged account, we can do all sorts of stuff. We also look at we could look at networking information to see if we could use it as a jump box to anything else. So if we saw multiple interfaces in here, we knew that we could potentially use this as a jump box to communicate to other machines on the network. But as you can see, trying to navigate the system using this is quite tricky. It's not the best for moving around and doing stuff. I mean, like I say, we can list what's in certain directories, but we can't really interact with it very easily. So what I'd be wanting to do at this point is get, like I say, is to get a reverse shell back on the system. So if we go to the documents temp folder, I've set up a PS1 shell. So we look at that quickly. So this is a reverse shell using PowerShell on the Windows target. Got the IP of our Kali machine. and the port that we're going to specify. So we need to get this on the target using our XP command shell. And then once it's on there, we'll execute it, and this will call back to our machine and we'll get a nicer shell. Right, I thought I'd jump in and show you a little drawing, because it's just occurred to me that some of you guys that are newer to these concepts and stuff might be thinking, what the hell is going on? So you don't need to worry about the technicalities of it too much. It's just getting into the mindset of what we're actually doing. So we've got our Kali machine. And then we've got our Windows machine running Microsoft SQL server. I have to excuse my dodgy drawing. I'm just getting used to this drawing tablet thing. So we've got initial access via some credentials we found in some other way to the database via impacket's mssqlclient tool. Secondly, we discovered that XP command shell is running, and we can use that to run CMD commands on the actual operating system, but it's a bit clunky and not very good, so we need to get a better command shell. So one way of doing this is on the Kali machine, we created shell.ps1, which is a PowerShell reverse shell. Again, if you don't understand what that is, don't worry too much. It's a way of getting a connection back from this machine over to the Kali machine. So 3, we use our XP command shell to then upload shell.ps1 over onto the Windows machine here. Again, using XP command shell, we're going to actually trigger this file so that when it runs, it will then call back to the Kali box. So to get the shell PS1 over onto there, we need to set up a Python listener on port 80. And to catch the reverse shell, we need a netcat listener listening on port 444. So once we use command shell to execute shell.ps1, that will then call back to that, and then hopefully we will have a nice command prompt that we can fully utilize. So I hope that makes a bit clearer what we're actually doing. And I apologise for my dodgy writing. I will get better at this writing stuff on here. But yeah, let's get back to the video and see what's going on. We need a netcat listener to catch the shell when we execute it. And we also need a way of getting the file onto the system to start with. Python 3, HTTP server, port 80. That's fine. So now back in here, there's a few different ways of doing this, and I wouldn't get too bogged down and worry about the complexity of it, because I will have videos in the future showing you how to do file transfers in numerous ways. But for now, it's just a demonstration of what we can actually do with this level of access. So we need to get that shell.ps1 script onto the system. What I'll do is show you in here what it actually looks like. So let's execute our XP command shell using CMD. So this is the CMD command. The location of certutil.exe, which is a way of transferring files on a system. Again, don't get too worried about what this is exactly, because I'll go into videos later date explaining what all this is. The IP address of the Python web server we set up, and our shell.ps1, and then the destination where we want to save it on the Windows machine. So if we run this in here, command completed successfully. You wouldn't have access to the graphical interface on the Windows machine, but I can, because it's my lab, I can show you what it's done. See, Windows temp. So there's our shell that we just uploaded. And if we go back to here, we should see a GET request. Yeah, so that's it. That's our server serving up the file. So now it's on the system. So this one now will be listening for the connection. So we need to trigger, or we need to execute that file now on the remote system. So the command for that is this. So similar, execute XP command shell, specify the CMD tool again, but this time we're loading PowerShell from the default directory or location. Execution policy bypass, specify the file, and that's the file we've uploaded. So once we call this, that should then trigger our listener and we should have caught the shell. So paste it back in here, execute, it's hanging, which is probably a good sign. And then yeah, so connect to that from the Windows IP address. We do a who am I, if I could spell it properly, NT authority system, and now we can move around and do stuff a lot easier. So we could go into the users folder, go into the admin folder, close that down out of the way. We don't need this server anymore, so I'll close that down as well. Just get a bit more screen visibility. So yeah, now we're in the admins directory. So now we could do whatever we want as that user. Like I said previously, there is many different ways we could transfer files across the system, but that was just one example. I will in a later video have a whole series on transferring files. So don't let that worry you too much if that's a bit too complex for yourself. This is just one of the many ways we can use an SQL Server database once we have access, especially as a privileged user like SA server admin. There's lots of other things we can do, but with varying levels of complexity, which will be explained in other videos. So I hope you found that educational, hope you found it useful, and thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.